We're on page 102. We're back after Hanukkah, starting a new chapter about anava, humility. Before we talk about humility, Rabbi Chaim Lutzato in his Misnat Yesharim writes that many things he's going to tell us we already know. The problem is that because they're so basic, we forget them. There's a famous poster, all I need to know, I learned in kindergarten.
Right.
A lot of things, share your toys, don't get mad, don't stomp your feet, things, play nice with others, the things that we should know, but we forget them as we get older. I like to say that there's more sophistication to the statement of the Ramchal than one meets the eye. And that is that sometimes things that were simple and were true, as we get older and seemingly more mature and more sophisticated, we needlessly complicate things that before were true before we complicated them. What I mean to say is there are certain things that we think are true that are not true. But because in our head we've been trained a certain way by the world around us or the people around us, we reach this place of thinking that that's supposed to be true. Anava. I have here with me somebody whose ear is trained very finely to the art of music. But any good musician, especially one who's religious, knows that music is downloading from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's what we know how to do, which is skill-wise, but the music we share, that we play, it comes from the depths of our heart. And sometimes our fingers or our mouths or our whatever we play on instruments with will do their own thing almost. Adonai tzavadai tiftach, ufi agiti latecha. Many times we find ourselves in that kind of situation. This is true with anybody who truly is passionate about what they do. Somebody who's a speaker, very often will find themselves, they prepared a speech, and they're standing in front of an audience, and they see, this is not what Hashem needs these people to hear, and then their heart will just take them in a different direction. This we like to call downloading. When a person goes over to somebody after a concert, someone sees a painter painting a beautiful portrait of someone, you are so talented. The response that we are trained to say in the West is, nah, it's nothing, as you should see, there's some greater people out there than I. The response is, if you want to be humble, which is a good character trait, the way you're humble is by putting down the things that you're good at. By saying, nah, it's okay, it's alright, thank you, I appreciate that. If a person were to say, yeah, I am talented, Baruch Hashem, that would come off as very arrogant. And Haraperetz always taught us that there's something wrong with the way we've been taught humility. You see, Hashem gives you a gift. If you're good at something, it's not all about you. Stop thinking that it's all your credit. If it's not all about you and it's a gift from Hashem, then who am I to say, no, Hashem didn't give me a gift? That's called being a kafui tova. The person, Hashem gave me a gift and I have no gratitude for that gift. To the contrary, say, yes, you're right, I'm a good speaker. Yes, you're right, I'm a good musician. Yes, you're right, I'm a beautiful artist. But it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Al tachzik tova la'atzmecha. Don't hold the goodness to yourself. I was created for this purpose. It's not arrogance. See, but if I would answer that way, someone would go, look at that arrogant person. Our rabbis tell us in the end of, I believe, Masechet Sotah, Masechet Sukkah, now the letters are being floated, messed around in my head. There was a famous rabbi, and Hashem came and said, I want to grant you one wish. And this rabbi said, you can give me anything except for humility because I'm already the most humble man. And that makes you think, give me anything except for humility because I'm the most humble man. Well, that doesn't seem so humble, does it? But I once saw a beautiful teaching from Rabbi Nachman of Breslev in which he says, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he's writing the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu writes, Va'ish Moshe anav mikol adam, that the man Moshe is the most humble from all men. How could Moshe Rabbeinu agree to write such a thing? I once heard a story.
You know who you are.
Oh, very good.
Hello, how are you?
I once heard a story from Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Alav Shalom. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was once in court, and they pushed him in a certain matter, to take an oath, and they asked him, well, who are you? Who do you think you are? He says, me. I'm the greatest rabbi in America. And his students afterwards said, how can you say such a thing? The greatest rabbi? How can you say? He said, listen, if someone asked me who I am, I would never introduce myself this way. But the judge is pushing me. I'm under oath. How could I lie? He said, what are you? This is the truth. I'm not arrogant to peddle my goods everywhere I go, but I'm under oath. I must tell the truth. A great person doesn't have to be self-deprecate. He doesn't have to put himself down all the time. It just has to come. What does it mean? This was given to me by Hashem. If it was given to me by Hashem, there's nothing for me to be arrogant about because it's not me. It's not about me. It's about a talent that Hashem gave me that I wish to give to the world. This is the difference between true humility and false humility. And when the Ramchal says that most things I'm going to tell you, you already know, I don't believe the Ramchal is saying that these are things you knew and you forgot, but rather these are things that you knew, and as you interacted with the world, sometimes those simple truths became perverted. They became sophisticated in other people's eyes, but they led us away from the truth in other things. There's that certain emunah that a child has that we lose as we get older. There's a certain honesty. El-Hanan will tell me things sometimes that, come on, who says that? It's cute because he's 2, but I know that when he turns 10, he's going to say the same thing. The teacher's going to get him in trouble. But the question is why? He's not lying. He's telling the truth. We live in a world where telling the truth sometimes could be a bad thing. The Shaar Kadosh, the Shaar Kadosh said that there was once a man in Yerushalayim. He goes out of his way to mention, Rabbi Yonatan Halevy, he goes out of his way to mention this was an old Sephardic sage of Jerusalem. He makes a big point that he was Sephardic. Why? I don't know. And he says that this man had 10 children. I don't remember exactly what it is. A number of children. He said that everyone came out to be a bigger tzaddik than the next one. And we asked the father, what did you do to your children that they all came out to be tzaddikim? He said, in my house, the only thing that mattered was the truth. The truth. Meaning, if somebody would break something, if one of the kids would eat the cookie from the cookie jar, whatever something would happen, I would bring my kids in the room and say, who did it? If you tell me the truth, I won't punish you. But if you lie to me, and I found out that you lied to me, and I will find out that you lied to me, he says, then you'll be punished. I taught my children, he said, that telling the truth will never be punished.
Then you have the, like in the Mayim laws, it talks about the story about the Rosh Yeshiva is ahead of a whole group of Talmidim, and he smells garlic. He says, which one of you was eating garlic? If so, please get up and leave the room and wash out your mouth. And the whole class got up and walked out, rather than embarrass one of their fellow students.
So here you're dealing in a place where it's not embarrassing. I mean, I'm giving you, I once visited a school. The school had a very interesting drug policy. It had a no-tolerance drug policy. But if one of the students would come forth and say, I have a problem, and they would agree to go to therapy, they'd keep him in the school. But if they caught him using drugs, they'd throw him out. If you'll be honest, you won't be punished for being honest. Trying to be deceitful. If the world worked like that, I had a Rebbe in yeshiva, in 11th grade, 10th grade. If you didn't know the answer to a question on the test, you had 2 choices. It's a Talmud test, Chumash test, Halakha test, whatever it was. You have 2 choices. You can either make up an answer, you might be right, or you can write, I don't know. If you wrote, I don't know, you would get half the points for that question.
That's fantastic.
Why? Because to make up a lie, he says, to make up a lie is worse than saying I don't know something. Why are you trying to answer something you don't know? Be honest that you don't know. I can't give you the full credit for the answer because you don't know what you're supposed to know. But to say that I don't know is a much better character trait than trying to fib your way through a story. It's an important midah. The simple things that used to be true for us should be. We should go back to them instead of allowing the world to corrupt truths that we know. So here's the Rabbi Avraham Hage'ava, page 102. Guys, I'm going to close that door. It's a little bit colder here. I'm wearing a jacket, so. Thank you, brother. Hage'ava me'usad chanav v'kalev. So what do I have to tell you about humility? Well, I can start telling you about humility if I talk to you about ego. Ego is despised by Hashem. Worse than despised. Ma'us means like disgusting. It's repulsive to Hashem.
But the word ego wasn't known in biblical times. The idea of ego is an invention of Freud.
Okay, how would you like me to translate Gava? He uses the word conceit.
Pride. No? Conceit is good.
Pride is not Gava.
Not pride, not false pride. Like,
So you don't translate Gava as pride. That's right, you
Gava. Pride is kavod.
Pride?
Why is pride a bad thing?
You're saying why is pride a bad thing?
Is this an example of pride?
He's the king of pride.
He's the king of Tapuz.
He's the king of Gava.
This is the Gava right here.
So what am I asking you?
The orange.
Why? How would it, listen? Every English word you're going to use for any Hebrew word is going to be a problem.
But ego.
How would you translate ego?
A solidified sense of one's own identity according to a false picture, or a partially false picture.
Interesting. Is that the definition of ego?
More of a narcissistic.
That's gava.
The
Pride.
Baal Shem Tov
Hubris.
distinguishes
Hubris.
between Ga'ava and Yehirut. So he talks about Yehirut as arrogance, and that's a real problem. But Ga'ava, no.
Interesting, because Yehirut in halachic literature is an interesting concept. Yuhara. Yuhara means I'm in a place where the greatest example that Shulchan Aruch would mention would be you're in a place and you decide to put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. You have to wear your second pair of tefillin because there's a higher level, according to you, of fulfilling the mitzvah of tefillin. The Mishnah Berurah records a case where they ripped off the Rabbeinu Tam tefillin from a person. Who are you to wear? You're in a place where even the rabbis don't wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. How could you come in? I'm so special. I'm so holy. I'm so. Yuhara is what Rabbeinu Avraham would call taking the individual path to Hashem before you finish the common road. Meaning doing things that you're not yet on the level to do in front of other people, and that's an arrogance because it shows, look at me, I'm already the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, and I'm not the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh.
But you haven't fulfilled the basic
Correct.
road of it.
Correct.
So it's like very shaky foundation. Those people tend to fall much more easily than people who have a strong foundation.
Correct.
What about the word hubris instead of
I like
gaiva?
hubris. That's a good word.
You're going to have to translate for me the word hubris into English.
Hubris.
Like
I mean, I think the difference between like ego and hubris would be that hubris is a quality of a person, but ego is the person's sense of themselves. It's not like a quality like this. You could say egotistical, but that's a quality of ego, which is a false sense of who you are.
Arrogance could be a good word for gava.
But that's
So I
still
see
a
the
quality
distinction you're making.
of a person's
Yeah.
behavior rather than an image of oneself. You see what I'm saying? It's like ego itself is like, it's like the Paro says, the river is mine and I made it myself. I am the source
This
of
is
the river.
gava.
Yeah.
So why not the word ego?
I think we
Could be.
use the word ego in a more pedestrian kind of way to mean what you're saying, to mean like hubris, to mean super pride, to mean
Again,
Conceit
I
would
would
mean
agree.
that somebody is full of themselves.
for themselves.
No, you're not distinguishing a quality of a person's actions as opposed to a way a person sees himself. I think there's a difference between the two.
When we use the word ego, we don't necessarily have a distinction between here's perception, this is a quality.
No, then you call it egotistical,
We could,
which
but
is
we're not.
different than ego.
It's true, but I think we tend to use it perhaps incorrectly.
Well, a lot of people don't have a clear understanding of Freudian.
You know,
psychology like
and
that,
yet there's
yeah.
some very positive words that come out of that root,
Sure.
Gimel Aleph Hey, like Gaon, genius, in particular genius
Very
in
good.
Jewish text, right?
What
Like
else?
the Vilna Gaon, my
Correct.
father's cultural hero, right? He's a Litva.
What else?
We say
What
great things
else?
about him around here.
Right.
Yeah.
And we also say great things about the Hasidim around here, too.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, Gaon Hayam, it means high tide.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not familiar with
I have to check. I may be
Do
wrong, but
something like
it has something to do with the seas coming up and
Interesting.
down. Gaon Hayam.
But any character trait on its own is not bad. The question is how much of it. Even anger, we mentioned, has a place.
Mhm.
And not having a sense of yourself. It's like,
Gava is not lack of self. Anava cannot come as a lack of self-esteem. That's not
Right.
exactly not what we're trying to reach when we say anava. I won't lie to you. There were Jewish groups that viewed anava in that fashion. They took some kind of Catholic approach to humility more than the Jewish approach to humility.
As in the joke, look who thinks he's a nobody.
Well, that's exactly
Yeah.
the philosophy. That's the philosophy of Yeshivat Novardok.
Right.
That was the competition of Slobodka. Was this? Look, I'm
Look
nobody,
at him,
I'm
he
a
thinks
nobody,
he's
I'm a-
nothing.
Look at him, he thinks he's a nobody. This is a strange. It's a strange. It could be very ascetic. Could be very ascetic, but it's not the correct approach to Avodah Zarah. V'amar Shlomo Melech says, "To'avat Adonai kol gevalev."
Right.
anyone with a haughty heart is considered a toiva. It's it's repulsed by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem doesn't like. V'od Amar Shlomo says, Shesh hena saneh Adonai v'sheva to'avad nafsho. 6 are hated by Hashem, and the 7th is also an abomination to him. Harishon shebehen, the first of them, rum einayim hamevi lidei kfila. This is already the Rabbeinu Avraham is taking a tangent. Rabbeinu Avraham understands that first and foremost, the place that ego, pride, whatever word you like to use, gava. Just don't say gaiva, please. Only somebody who doesn't know how to read with vowels could say such a thing. This first kind of haughtiness is one that brings a person to kfira. Kamflash b'Torah, like a person says, "Veram levavecha," your heart became. Here, even the English translation is not consistent here, how he translates these terms. But your heart becomes
haughty, raised up.
Ram literally is lifted up. V'shachachta et Adonai Elohecha, and you will forget Hashem your God.
Right.
We had the story now in Chanukah with the Maccabim. The Maccabim, Mila Hashem Alai, they go to war, they conquer the Greeks. Their descendants already come back as non-believers in Hashem. Kochi ve'otzem yadi, as'ani ta'chai lazem, my strength, my own strength, is what gave me these accomplishments. Not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So ego, haughtiness, when a person...
Can you speak a little more about that? I didn't know about this.
Sure.
I do know the HaShamayim did not last very long as
Lasted
a dynasty.
quite a while, actually. And the HaShamayim essentially were warriors who wanted to take back the kingdom and put it in its rightful place. The HaShamayim were busy restoring law and order to the kingdom. At the point that they finished restoring law and order to the kingdom, the Kohanim should have said, we're not ruling class, we should go back to the Ben Mikdash and hand over the kingdom to the tribe of Yehuda, which they didn't do. Some theories suggest that this is the reason why you don't find much in the Mishnah about Chanukah except for the amount of candles you light. The only part that the Mishnah discusses Chanukah is the halachic obligation of what you have to do, but praising the Maccabees of the story, it seems like Rabbi Yonatan, who was from the ruling class.
Chanukah.
He was very good. But my Chanukah, then it talks about the way you light candles, not the story, not the oil, not the wars, not anything like that, because there was something wrong the Hashmonaim did.
But wasn't Rabbi Akiva who thought that the Mashiach was among the Hashmonaim?
Was Bar Kochba.
Was Bar Kochba. So what? Rabbi Akiva thought that Shimon Bar Kochba came from the Hashmonaim?
I don't think.
No,
Is that a connection?
no.
I don't know if there was a connection there, but
All right.
essentially the Hashmonaim ended up like many people. I mean, the first telegram that you find after the 6-Day War is from Yitzchak Rabin, and the head of the Ramatkal, who writes, Me'et Adonai hayta zot, hiniflad beni. This is from a God. There's no other way to explain what happened. That's not the official version recorded in the Israeli history books. We had a terrific air force, we had a cavalry, we had infantry, whatever, we had a tank units, and we had a great general. We. Kucha Baruch Hu gets forgotten in this story.
Right.
And so there's always, it's like the person who was looking for a parking spot. Says, Hashem, if you find me a parking spot, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden a car pulls up. Hashem, don't worry, I found a parking spot. It's okay. This is the same, a certain haughtiness that leads me to believe that I accomplish things on my own. When I divorce HaKadosh Baruch Hu from the equation, of course it's all about me. It's all about what I accomplish, and I did this and I did that. And you sometimes hear people that are very successful, and I once watched a video from a man. He has a company in New York called O Nuts. O Nuts. It's in Borough Park. He essentially it's like a nut store. Nuts, pistachios, cashews. Now it has candies, all kinds. It's like a little tchotchke store, you want to make a wedding with blue, white, and pink themed everything, so he can get you any kind of jelly bean or sugar-covered almond or whatever, in any color that you need, or in any shape that you need. And so he was telling a story about how they said he worked in a little warehouse in the back, schlepping boxes. And a Hasidic guy from Borough Park. So at a certain point, he says, 13 kids. How much money can you make schlepping boxes in the back of a warehouse? If you're going to start a new business, well, he goes, I was going to sell little nuts, He said this nuts, when it came time for Mishlach Manot, he had orders coming out of nowhere. Orders, they want the nuts that are going to fit in this little box and this gift bag. And this. They started ordering things. He became the exclusive distributor of kosher nuts and candies to the United States.
Wow.
He sells now on Amazon. He has warehouses 6 months before Purim, already packing Mishlach Manot that people order from him. He's one of the wealthier guys today in Brooklyn.
Lord.
And he hires only people, like kids that are at risk, people that need a job because nobody else will hire them.
Oh, wow.
And when he's telling his story, There's nothing of, I did this, I was so smart, I got that, I got... Everything is, Hashem found me a warehouse. And then Hashem decided that on Amazon they're going to... And Hashem, everything is about... So he's doing everything, but really Hashem is doing everything. This kind of person, there's a person, he knows that he accomplished something, obviously, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is never divorced from this story. When we lift our hearts a little too much, it's all about me, so then Hashem kind of takes a backseat role, and then I become haughty to the point of kfirah, which I no longer am able to see Hashem in my day-to-day life.
It's like people who eat without blessing the food. Achalta v'savata v'barachta.
So
You bless after you eat and are satisfied.
So in Hebrew they say barachta with a chet.
Uvarachta.
I ran away.
You ran away.
I ate, I was satisfied, and I ran away. Sometimes that's the way it looks. And so that's evil. Umeidach gisan, to the contrary, ha'anava hi min ha'meulot shebamidot ha'trumiyot ki hakdama letov hashanem. Humility is the loftiest of the commendable traits, for it leads to spiritual greatness. Kamo she'amar Shlomo says, v'fnei kavod anava, before honor there is the humility. Ve'en pirush ha'kavod kan ha'kara atzmit shetei anava mesayat lehipucha. Honor does not signify glory, for humility brings forth the opposite. אלא כבוד הנזכר כאן פירושו שלמות האדם שעליה אמר הכתוב וכבוד והדר תעטרהו. Rather, honor here means completeness. A person, you have crowned him with honor and splendor. והיא הענווה מביאה ליראתו יתעלה. ככתוב עקב ענווה יראת השם. That after a person has humility, it brings about reverence for Hashem. Rabbi Yonatan is going to explain himself. But Anava doesn't turn a person, when it says that it brings about kavod, it doesn't bring about kavod in the sense that, now he's going to be egotistical because he was, now he's going to be arrogant because he was humble. Rather, this humility brings about a certain completeness to that person. If you've seen ever a very successful person who is also humble, you can't help but have respect for that person. Like, wow, they got it right. They have, but they live modestly, and they're kind, and they do chesed, and there's a feeling of completion you get from such a person. And this is what Anava brings out. It's almost like Anava, the one who is so arrogant doesn't realize how repulsive he is. Let's put Hashem on the side. How repulsive he is to other people. The one who is humble also might not realize how much that actually serves to honor him, how much that gives him respectability and integrity among other people. It's very pleasant to speak to a person who is not so arrogant. And it's really difficult to speak to a person that only thinks about themselves. It's all about me, it's all about what I want, it's all about... You live in a world today, I don't want to damn a whole generation, but the world, we've spoken some of us about this in the past, it's a very entitled generation. And it used to be people were entitled because they did something. You can be entitled. You can feel like you deserve something when you worked for something. Okay, maybe I understand it's not correct, but I understand why you're... There are people who, they don't do anything. They're good for nothing. And they're still entitled. Such a person is repulsive out there. I don't know. I don't even know what to do with you. And you live in a world that more and more people, this is becoming okay. It's all about me. It's what I want. It's what I need. It's what...
You paid your money, and you're entitled to the information that I paid for, and I hired you to give me this information so I can get my degree, and then take my boards.
It's about me.
And it happened somewhere, as I noticed, in the 90s. And this one professor of philosophy at University of Virginia said it was because, again, the internet is a fantastic thing, he said, but it changed the whole concept of a professor or a teacher being someone who shared their life experiences and challenged you to grow into someone who taught a standardized class that anyone could teach or a robot could teach.
Information.
And give the information. They're buying the information from you.
Correct.
So they own the teacher now.
Very good. Very good. You know how parents once... this is a great story, a concept of humility, which you might find difficult. But I, as a student of his, it doesn't scare me so much. So we have two tracks in the yeshiva in Jerusalem. We have those who study by our parents we plan to be rabbis outside of Israel. Therefore, our smicha needs to include certain things that we only need to know when you're outside of Israel, but it also doesn't we don't go test at the chief rabbinate because we don't plan to work with the chief rabbinate. We don't plan to have anything to do with the chief rabbinate. And we pray to God the chief rabbinate has nothing to do with us either. But it doesn't always work out that way. those who plan to stay in Israel, mostly the Israelis, they have no choice. I mean, they're owned by the chief rabbinate mafia.
Right.
They have to study there. They have to take they can do whatever they want after they get those tests, but to be considered a rabbi, at least an Orthodox one in Israel, you need to go through those hoops. So there's two tracks, and Rabbi Peretz refuses to teach the chief rabbinate track because he doesn't believe that you can put smicha into a curriculum that everybody must do, and there's rules, and there are standardized tests, and it just... at the end of the day, you're going to get smicha. So that
It's
he
not a
who tested the chief rabbinate,
There's no transmission or lineage
very good.
anymore.
He gets smicha from the chief rabbis who he's never met, who he's never seen, who he never studied from. And it says, I give smicha to, but you don't know this man.
It's a data, and you don't know the
And
quality
those
of
of
the person
us who
who's getting it.
studied by Rav Peretz for 5 years, 6 years, sitting at his feet every day, you learn Torah. He's my teacher. He's taking responsibility for us. Yeah, that might be considered an inferior smicha to some people, but that's the correct way to go about getting smicha, in my opinion. So once Rav came to the Beit Midrash and he saw somebody studying for the Rabbanu Smicha test, and he had a whole pile of books, Shulchan Aruch and Rambams and Gemarot and all kinds of things. And Rav stands there looking at him for about a minute until the guy doesn't realize. He looks up. And Rav says, "What are you studying?" He says, "I'm studying the laws of Chuppah and Kiddushin." And Rav says, "How? What are you studying for the laws of Chuppah and Kiddushin?" He says, "Oh, I'm learning Shulchan Aruch, the Beit Yosef, I'm going backwards, the Gemara, forwards, the Rambam." That. Rav looked at him. And he said, "Ze bitul Torah. You are neglecting. You're wasting your time. You're not studying Torah. You're wasting your time." So what do you mean? I'm studying Shulchan Aruch. How can you say learning Shulchan Aruch is bitul Torah? It's wasting my time. He said, "Yes." He said, "I once had to learn like that also, and I already wrote a book about Chuppah v'Kiddushin. I did all the work for you. I went already to the Gemara. I went already to the Rambam. I brought you the Shulchan Aruch. I brought you all the sources you need to know." He says half of what the Shulchan Aruch talks about in the laws of marriage are not applicable today. What happens if 100 people marry one lady in the same time and at the same chuppah? These are like Gemara questions. Are they 100th married to her? Are they not? Is she married to the first one? To the last one? A lot of things. What happens if you write a name? Which river? What if you run into the river over here, but not the river over there? We don't write rivers in Ktubot anymore. The things are. You're wasting your time. I did this work for you. I said, by choosing not to use such a work, now you see, it's not coming about him. It's not here about him. He says, I had to do this stuff too. And I'm telling you, it's not worth your time. You could study my book, finish already the laws of marriage, and go on to something that's more relevant to you. But you insist on learning things the right way, and by that, you're ending up to waste your time. This is how long is it going to take you to study the laws of marriage? This is not considered gava. It's not ego. A person's not to say, I could help you do something better. Why do you have to? Because there's a standardized chief rabbinate test. You have to know about the rivers. You have to know. They won't teach you anything about being nice to other people. Actually, they just teach you know. I just got yesterday. What day is yesterday? Friday. I got the new protocol of the chief rabbinate for smicha now.
Oh.
And interestingly enough, they added a section in there, mitzvot ben adam lechavero.
Oh.
They have had so much corruption in the chief rabbinate that they lobbied them to include a portion on how to be nice to people. You have to understand, you're starting to be a rabbi, a chief rabbi of a neighborhood of a city. You have to go to smicha classes on how to be nice to other people. This is the world you live in, though. And the transmission is no longer intact. But also, a person could say, I am confident that you're wasting your time because you're not studying the work that I wrote. It's not considered gava. It's not about me. It's about you. I'm trying to help you. A person could say such a thing. I was once with a Talmid Chacham. This Talmid Chacham, he noticed that somebody had moved their seat in the shul. Why? They wanted to pray facing the wall, like it says in the Gemara. But they used to sit next to the door. Now they moved up to the wall. And this Talmid Chacham I was with was his student. So he went over and told him, he said, I want to let you know, just from a halachic perspective, this idea of praying next to the wall is not as important as the idea of standing up for a rabbi when he walks to the front door. So it would be better for you, if you want to get mitzvot, it would be better for you to stand next to the door and stand up when the rabbi comes in than stand here. Now, if you weren't a student of this rabbi, like me, I would be a pub. How could you say such a thing? But he who was a student of the rabbi understood he's not, it's not coming from a place of arrogance. I've hired him to transmit to me my Torah. I need to know Torah. And he's telling me there's an order of priorities, and the priorities is better to do over there than to pray over here. But it's not gava. This is a completeness. It's a shlemut in a person. And the whole point of humility is to reach a shlemut inside of a completion, to create a complete human being. And that includes all kinds of things. We're going to talk more about humility in the next few weeks. This is our new topic.